Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have no contractors that work for Sikorsky in my district. There are no Sikorsky employees in my district. I represent a swath of eastern Connecticut where this is going to have very little effect, except that the people in my district are still going to pay their share of the $220 million that we're going to spend on this deal. I've spoken to a lot of my constituents, and I've spoken to a lot of contractors that contract with other defense contractors, and very few of them think this is a good deal. And those that think I should support it can't tell me why, other than that Sikorsky should stay in Connecticut. Well, I would love Sikorsky to stay in Connecticut, but Sikorsky should want to stay in Connecticut. We shouldn't have to bribe Sikorsky to stay in Connecticut. But I'm very frustrated that we're in this position. And I know the frustration. I've spoken with a number of members of this chamber, and they're frustrated too. We're frustrated because a lot of people in this chamber have to vote for this bill. They have really no choice, because the legislature has created an environment in this state where the only way we can attract or retain a business in this state is by bribing them with tax money. And what that does is it takes money from the people of my district and it gives it to people in another district. Now you could say, okay, well, that's what government does. But government should not be in the venture capital business. We should not be spending taxpayer money to invest in businesses and hope for a return. That is the job of the private sector, not the job of the state government. Now, I can speak against this bill, and I can speak against this deal, and I can vote against this deal, where I know a lot of other people in this chamber wish they could, but they can't, and I understand that. And they must feel as frustrated as I that they're in that position. And they should not be in that position. We as a chamber should be here figuring out ways to make it easier for businesses to do business here. We sat through a presentation from Sikorsky, and they told us that it cost $400 million more for them to build their helicopter here than elsewhere. $400 million more to build the same product. Why is that? It's because of the policies that have been put in place by this legislature over the decades that we have made it near impossible for a company to build a product in this state without some type of government subsidy. That is crazy. We shouldn't be here in special session trying to work out a deal to pay Sikorsky money. We should be in special session right now trying to figure out how to eliminate that $400 million delta between what it costs to build a helicopter somewhere else and what it costs to build it here. We need to, and many of my colleagues have said the same thing, we need to make it easier for companies to do business. But because we haven't done that, the members of this chamber, very often, if they have contractors in their district, or if they have Sikorsky in their district, or if they have Sikorsky employees in their district, they have to vote for this. They're over a barrel. Now, some of my other colleagues mentioned this as well, that instead of taking money, more money, $220 million from the beleaguered taxpayers of this state to fund a single business, which that business, this this government has chosen which business to fund. We're not funding some other company who may decide to pop up. What we're doing is, if I want to start making helicopters in my district, this deal is essentially making me fund my competition. It's taking my tax dollars, if I want to build helicopters, and it's giving it to another helicopter manufacturer. That's crony capitalism. We should not be deciding who gets the money. The market should make those decisions. Now, some people, and I believe this is a bad deal for my district. Many people say that it's good for the state. I don't believe that to be true. But let's assume for a second that it is true, that overall this deal is going to be good for the state. Should I vote for something that's bad for my district because somebody else thinks it's good for the state overall? I don't think so. The people of my district voted for me to represent them. And what deals like this do, what crony capital deals like this do, is they pit one group or one region against the other, as opposed to having everybody working on a level playing field and having businesses succeed on their merits. The state of Connecticut should not be in the venture capital business. Now, normally at this point, I would say that I'm voting against this bill, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. But I understand that many of my colleagues simply cannot vote against this bill despite really wanting to, especially 6 weeks before an election. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.